Today we're going to learn about some additional tools that we can learn and use through Photoshop. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to open a blank document. So from the File option to open a new document, you can title your document. And sometimes your default is in pixels, but if you want to change to inches, it's a measurement that you might understand a little bit better. And then if your default resolution is 72 pixels per inch, you want to change that to about 300. And your color mode should be RGB color, and my background contents I'm going to make white, so it looks like a white piece of paper, and then I'll press OK. So I'm going to pull over my workspace. And the first tool we're going to use is the Marquee tool. Our Marquee tool is a selection tool. You can select pictures, but you can also use it as a drawing function. So with the Marquee tool, there's a rectangular, elliptical, and rows. So you can press and select. You can change the shape, bigger, smaller. Now with the Marquee tool, you're able to add and subtract to the selection. And so by holding the Shift key down, I can add components. And holding down the Option key, the Option Alt key, you can subtract from that. You can also use the elliptical Marquee tool and Shift to add, or I can Option subtract away from the option. Now this is a selection, and in order to modify this even more, I can also use the lasso tool, which also creates a selection. The lasso tool is a free-form selection. So I have the regular lasso, polygonal, and magnetic. We're going to use the regular lasso tool. And again, to shift, I can create my own selection. So I can select a picture. Right now I'm just selecting a shape. So you can add the selection. You can also subtract with the lasso using the Option Alt key. So the Marquee and the lasso tool are both selection tools. And now what I can do is I can move this, and I can create a line, or what's called a stroke. So in the Edit Stroke option, the color, I can change my color, and the width is per pixel, so a 16 is going to be a thick line, so we can see that. I'm going to press OK. To get rid of my selection, or what I call the dancing ants, you can press Command D, as in deselect, and it will get rid of the lines. Now if I want to reselect a portion, I can use the magic wand, which is right in here, to select a different component. So now I've selected that whole inside. I can also select the whole outside. If I select the inside and I want to select everything outside of it, there's an option called invert selection. If you press Shift Command I, it then selects everything on the outside of it. And this is helpful for text or for just shape selections. Now I'm going to show us how to use the brush tool and what the selection is actually doing. So I'm going to select the inside and use the brush tool, which we've used before. I want the normal mode. And I want to show you how there's a lot of different brushes. And on the bottom, there's a lot of cool brushes. So I'm going to use the star tool and go ahead and notice that I'm drawing all over the place. I can increase my size, change my color. But it's not adding the brush tool to the outside of my selection. So the selection keeps it clean. I can also change my brush, change my color, and again notice that it's just staying within the selection area. Now if I invert the selection, Shift Command I, now I have everything on the outside that is selected. So I'm going to change my color. And notice that it colors everything on the outside of the selection and nothing on that other part. So the selection tool keeps your areas nice and clean. I can change my tool, change my colors. And use different brushes for that. Now the gradient tool also right here. So you can choose your colors within here. Your first preset is the colors from your that you've chosen, but they also have some other options. For example, this rainbow sunset color. So the gradient tool you can use as a normal mode. And again, it's only going to go in the selection. So I'm going to click and drag over my selection and it will totally fill the area. It's a little bit see-through because my opacity was decreased. If I increase my opacity, it will completely fill in solid. So I'm going to go back 2 steps. You can use other modes, but for if you want it slightly see-through, which I kind of like, you can change the opacity. You can also change how it's applying. And depending on how you create your line, it will do different layers. So I have a bunch of layers on top of each other for that. So there's the gradient tool. To add a layer, right now all of my items are on one layer. But if I wanted to add a layer and put something on top, I can go into my layer channel. And next to the trash can is an option to add new layer. And what I have is a see-through layer on top, and I can make a bunch of these. And what I can do is I can now create, I'm going to Command deselect. I can create a layer of something on top. So I'm going to use the marquee tool. I'm going to use my gradient to create a new layer. And I'm going to deselect that. And what I can do is I could actually move this, even though it looks like one image, but I can actually move this all over the place. Because these two shapes, my original shape and the background, were on the same layer, I can't adjust where this is located. Also, if I'm trying to move something and another thing is moving that I don't want it to move, just check your layer so you can move that around. So there's that. I can create another layer and fill this in with my gradient tool. And again, I can move that around. And say I wanted this one on top, you can also adjust and change the layering of your objects. So again, to modify or adjust a subject, make sure you're on the correct layer. So that's how to add more layers. And again, also how to adjust the layering. You can just pull down and make sure that one layer is on top of another one or underneath. And lastly, you can adjust your opacity for your layer. So I had adjusted the opacity or how see-through something is within the tool, but you also have the option to, in your layer channel, to adjust the opacity for that whole layer. So notice I can make something more or less see-through. And the opacity helps with layering, which looks really nice, especially in graphic design or images, so that you can see an under image through soft colors or a different tool that you've used. And so these are some additional tools that you can use with Photoshop just to create some different pictures.